Okay? All right, we're completing the square. This is a review, okay? Review from section 3.3 for those of you who forgot. Let's do this together. Help me out. What do we do when we complete the square? Well, I always say to you, look at the first two terms. Okay, let's put a bracket around them. Let's leave some space for something we're going to add in, and that constant term will leave outside. Now, help me out. How or what number goes inside the bracket to make this a perfect square?
25.
Yeah, it's plus 25. How do we get that once again? Well, remember that came from the middle term. We took the middle term, we divided it by 2, which gave us negative 5. And the last thing we do is we square it. Okay, so negative 5 all squared is 25. I want you to balance this out. So how do I balance out positive 25?
Negative.
Minus 25. Thank you. And then once again, to simplify this, you're going to have to factor, but it always becomes x. Help me out. What's the number? X minus 5. Welcome. Good. All squared. And then 16 minus 25 is? Minus 9. Done. Okay. All right. Now the next one here, part B, once again, is the more tricky one because in front of the x squared you have a number. So my advice to you is always factor out the number first. So I'll factor out the 4. You got your x squared. What's 48 divided by 4 again?
12.
That's 12x. And then once again, my preference is to ignore the constant. Let's stick it outside the bracket. And then the same thing applies. You have to look at the bracket here and say to yourself, what number is the one that makes this a perfect square? Half of 12 is? 6 squared is?
36.
Nice. Plus 36. And don't be a fool and say minus 36. What's my problem if I do that?
Minus 144.
Thank you. Times it by 4. 36 times 4 is 144. Okay. One last step, please, to simplify this bracket. That becomes x plus 6, all squared. Don't forget the 4 in front. And then negative 7 minus 144 is negative 151. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you can do this, you're more than halfway to understanding today's lesson. Okay? More than halfway. If you can't, work on it, please. Okay? Now, remember what we did before. Okay? This whole chapter has been about solving quadratic equations. Now, what I'm telling you is some of them can't be factored. Okay? And when you graph to find a solution, you get decimals. And decimals are fine, but they're not what we call exact solutions. Sometimes I want the exact answer. Okay? Like when you have pi, that big long decimal, you don't write down 3.14, you write down pi, the exact answer. So today what I want to show you is to be able to give a solution as an exact value, we will employ this process of changing the standard form equation, which is like what I have in the beginning, to form like this. What form is this? Yeah, so to changing the standard form of a quadratic, which is this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, into the vertex form, which we learned in chapter 3, a bracket x minus p all squared plus q. Okay, all that stuff from chapter 3 is going to come back now. And remember once again how we did that? We employed this method called completing the square. Okay. The only new thing that we're going to do is when we're solving, we're going to isolate x to solve. So this is the only new part that we will actually do today in chapter 4. Okay? So let's see if we can do some examples here. And hopefully by doing a few examples, you'll get the idea and you'll be very happy. You want to be happy today, right? Today's a happy day. Good. Happy day. Happy day. All right, example number 1. Hey, we got x squared minus 10x plus 16. So the first thing I want you to do is always complete the square. So step 1 is to always just complete the square. Okay? So let's do it. X squared minus 10x, put a bracket, plus 16, okay, and make this equal to 0. Help me out, dear friends. What goes inside the bracket? 25. So what goes outside the bracket? Minus 25. By the way, it's the same one as before. Yes, see, I'm very smart. I made the same question, so you don't have to do it twice. But for those of you who didn't understand it the first time, hopefully you'll understand it the second time. What's 16 minus 25? Minus 9? Good. Okay. So same, right? First step is the same. So once you've got to this stage, the vertex form, now to solve, what you want to do is just isolate x. Okay. So this is the only new part. Okay, so those of you who love algebra, this is your time to shine. What do I do to try to isolate x? What should I move to the right-hand side first? Plus 9. Good. So I'll move the plus or the negative 9 to both to the right-hand side. So you get x minus 5 all squared equals to plus 9.
Square root.
Good. What's next? X is inside this bracket, which has a square. I don't want this square, so Isabel, what should I do? The root? Good. Square root both sides. X minus 5 is what's left over on the left-hand side. And what's the square root of 9 on the right-hand side? 3. Okay. If you left your answer like 3, I'd be like, you're not so good.
Just 5.
Not good. Louder. Plus or minus 3. When you square root both sides, remember, you can also have a negative answer, right? Just as a quick review, if I gave you x squared equals to 4 and you're square rooting both sides, many of you say, well, x equals to 2. Yes, you're right. 2 squared gives you 4, but that's not the only answer. What else gives you positive 4? Also negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 also gives you positive 4. So plus minus. See how I highlighted that plus minus? Do that in your notes somehow too. Okay. I'll say this. Star. Don't forget the plus minus. Okay. Now, we're almost done. I asked you to solve for x. I didn't ask you to solve for x minus 5. So how do I solve for x now? That's right. Just move the negative 5 to the side. So it's 5 plus or minus 3. And if you want to write this as two separate answers, what's 5 plus 3? 8. So there's your first answer. And then 5 minus 3, that is 2. There's your second answer. You're done. Okay?
Mr. Lee?
Yes, Tanasia.
Will this way also work where the questions we did last class?
Yes, this way will. Yes. This way will work for all the questions we did last class as well. Okay? If you find this is easier, that'll be fine. Your job is to learn all 3 of the ways, okay? When I give you your Chapter 4 tests, I'll have questions that say solve it using this way. And then I'll have questions that says solve with whichever way you want. Okay? So you're still responsible for learning all of them, but in the end, you choose the one that you like. Okay? All right, let's do part B. First step is to complete the square, right? So, oh yeah, it's the same thing. So if you want to do it again, that's fine. I'm going to be lazy this time. I'll say dot, 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 and I'll say C above. Hee hee hee, right? What is the answer to this, by the way, from above?
4 plus 6.
4, what was it? 4 bracket x plus 6 all squared minus 151 equals 0. Okay. Just wanted to save some time. Okay? So that first part, once again, is all from Chapter 3. Nothing new there. The new stuff now is when you do the second part, show me how you can isolate x. Okay? So let's do this together. And then afterwards, hopefully you can try part C on your own. Okay? Here we go. What should I do first, dear friends? Plus 151, sure. So let's write this as 4 bracket x plus 6 all squared. And let's move the negative 151 to the other side. Good. What's next after that? Divide by 4. Good. Which is ugly. Not you, but the question.
37.7.
Okay. Now, remember here, I'm not looking for decimals, right? I'm looking for an exact answer. So don't go ahead and use your calculator and plug in decimals, okay? Don't freak out like that.
Oh my god.
What's the next step?
Square root.
Square root. Good. So we'll square root both sides now. Okay. So let's square root both sides. And I'll say this. Okay, when we square both sides, I'll just get x plus 6. I don't need a bracket anymore, I guess. And then I'll leave this as root. And I'll say right now, you can just leave it like this. That's perfectly fine. But what did I forget?
Plus minus.
Thank you, positive or minus. Okay. And then what's my last step going to be?
Minus 6.
Yeah, so minus 6. Okay, so just leave your answer like this for now, and I'd be actually quite happy. Okay. And this is the actual exact answer. Exact. Okay. Now, for those of you who want to be a little bit more sophisticated and do something special to make it look nicer, you can. You don't have to, but I'll show you right now. Okay. If you want to simplify, so I'll say if you want to simplify, here's how you can simplify this a little bit. Okay. You see that square root? That big ugly square root with the fraction? You can actually split up that square root into this root 151 over root 4. Okay? You can split up the square root into the square root of the top number divided by the square root of the bottom number. Now, one of those numbers, when I take the square root, is nice. Which one? The top one or the bottom one? Bottom. What's the square root of 4? 2. So if you wanted, you could leave your answer like this, and that would be nice too. Okay? So I will take this as an answer. I will also take this as an answer. Both are okay. How are we feeling so far? Okay? Yeah? All right. Let's do part C. Do you want to try to do the completing the square part yourself first, or would you like me to do it with you together?
By yourself.
By yourselves first? Okay. You don't need to change the page. There's another question here. You're still on page 1. Still on page 1. Part C. Part C. Okay, so go ahead. I'll give you a few seconds to try this on your own. My advice to you, first of all, is you should factor out the a value, which is 1/2. So I'll start this for you. You get x squared. Now, what's this next part? Tricky. Negative 4 divided by negative half. Sorry, negative 4 divided by half. Not negative 2.
That's negative 8.
It's negative 8. Yes, remember, negative 4 divided by a half is the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1. So yes, minus 8. Okay. Go ahead now and try to finish this off on your own. Okay? Go ahead, see if you can try it. Need some help, let me know. Pause record. Done, or want to double check your answer? Listen up. Help, help, help. What number goes inside the bracket here? 16. Good. Shh, quiet please, okay? You've got the 16, so to balance this out, what number should I put next to the 5? Negative 8. Awesome. So continuing on, x minus 4 all squared. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. That looks good. We've completed the square. Let's keep going. Yeah, plus 3 to both sides. Sweet. So we get 1/2 x minus 4 all squared. Sorry? Isn't it 32?
Half times 16.
Half times 16 is not 32. Half times 16 is 8. You did 2 times 16. Okay? Now let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. So what's the next step after this? Divided by 1/2. And be careful once again. 3 divided by 1/2 is? Oh, 3 divided by 1/2. Same thing as 3 times 2 over 1. It's 6. Think about it this way. I've got 3 chocolate bars. I'm cutting them into halves. How many pieces do I have? 6 pieces to share with your teacher and friends. I hope you have at least 5 friends. Okay, keep going. What's next? Square root. Square root. Don't forget the... Okay, plus or minus. Yay. And your last step would be to move the 4 over. If you got this as your answer, bravo. You understand all the steps. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the skill behind doing this. Okay, you've learned now how to solve these questions by completing the square. If you turn to the next page, oh, look at that, your favorite. I'm being sarcastic. It's word problems again. Okay? So once again, you're going to have to learn how to standardize these word problems and find the equation. And now, instead of solving it by factoring or completing this, or factoring or graphing calculator, I'm going to ask you to solve by completing the square. Okay? So let's take a look at this together. We'll talk about the picture and hopefully we can set up the equation. And then once you set up the equation, I hope you can solve it by completing the square. Okay? All right. Do you know that I actually garden?
In the summertime.
I actually don't. I like to start. Any of you garden?
If I'm forced to.
No? Any of your parents do gardening? No? Gee. Your mom does. Okay, so here's my flower bed. Okay? Here are my flowers inside. Here's my flowers.
Those look like trees.
They're not trees, they're flowers.
They're like clovers. I don't even know what the hell that second thing is.
That's supposed to be a rose.
Looks like a twice. It looks like a Venus flytrap.
Whatever. Flower bed, okay? Stop making fun of my flowers. Okay, now, what's going on here? I want to build what they call a uniform walkway around the garden. So really what I'm saying is I want to build some sort of rectangular uniform walkway around it. Okay? I'm saying I want to build this as a walkway around it so people can actually admire my flower garden and be impressed with my green thumb.
Admire or laugh?
Venus flytrap.
Students who want to pass will admire. Students who want to fail will laugh. Okay?
I admire your flowers like
Okay, good. Now, what does it say here? The rectangular flower bed is 20 meters by 40 meters. So the distance here is 20. The distance down here is 40.
Oh,
Okay? Yeah, the actual flower bed itself. Okay? Now it says there is enough material to make a walkway that has a total area of 700 meters squared. So what I'm saying to you is that the stuff in yellow, the highlighted stuff in yellow that I will use as my walkway has an area of 700. Okay? Now the question is this. What's the width of the walkway? The width of the walkway is this distance here. The distance between here and here. That's the width. Let's call it W. Now notice it's a uniform walkway, so this is also W. This up here is also W. This over here is also W. We'll talk about that in a sec. Okay? W is just the width, the uniform width. Okay? So I'd like you to draw this in because the picture is nice. Okay. So, my question to you is, how can we come up with a formula to describe that yellow stuff? Okay?
Something.
It's something. Yeah, no kidding. It's something.
With W.
With W. That's good. Now, let me ask you this first of all, okay? Let's just forget about this empty flower bed. If I were to look at the big rectangle, how would I describe the length of the big rectangle? And how would I describe the width of the big rectangle?
Are we gonna do that minus thing?
Maybe.
It's
That was
20
a little wonky.
plus
I knew it.
Okay, so the width over here is 20 plus what?
X.
Well, I didn't use X. What did I use in my
W.
W? Is it just 20 plus W?
2W.
20 is this part, I agree, but there's a W. There's also another W. So how many W's?
2.
One W, another W, it's 2W. Can you see that? Okay. Do the same idea, please. What about this part?
40 plus 2W.
Same idea. It's 40 plus, yes, 2W. Okay? Now, how do I actually calculate the width of the walkway? Well, I heard someone say you got to do some minus stuff. What are we minusing? What minus what?
Same thing we did on the test.
Kind of, yeah.
A minus B.
Well, A minus B. Well, what's A here? What are we talking about?
Length times width.
Length of width of what, though? I see like 2 right now.
20 plus 2W.
Yeah, it's big minus small, right? So think about it like this. The big rectangle,
Is that one?
okay, minus the small rectangle
Oh, 20 plus
is actually equal to the width, or that yellow stuff, right? So I'll say the actual walkway. Okay, walkway, or the yellow stuff.
Oh, brick road.
Okay. By the way, don't write down yellow stuff on your test. That is weird. Okay. Now, the big rectangle. How do we find the area of rectangle? Length times width. Good. So what's the length? 40 plus 2w. What's the width? 20 plus 2w. Excellent.
I'm liking it.
You're liking this? Because it should be somewhat familiar to you all. Minus, what's the small rectangle area?
20 times 40.
Yeah, that's just 40 times 20.
Which is 800.
Yeah, we'll do that in a sec. And this equals to the area of the walkway, which is how much?
700.
700. Nice. Okay, here's what I want you to do next. It's time to expand first, and then afterwards we'll simplify, then we'll complete the square, then we'll solve. I hope you have some room. 40 times 20 is 800, okay. 40 times 2 is 80. I'm going to combine this together. 2 times 20 is 40. What's 80 plus 40? 120. Is it okay if I skip the step there and just combine them together?
Yeah.
Okay, and then 2w times 2w is 4w squared. 40 times 20, you said is 800. That's good. And that equals to 700 on the right-hand side. Mr. Lee's very nice. He picked nice numbers, so they cancel out. So all you have left over on the right or the left-hand side is 4w squared plus 120w. And in this case, I'm just going to leave the 700 on the right-hand side. Okay.
Complete square time.
Is it time to complete the square? You bet. Okay, let's focus now on the stuff on the left. Who cares about that 700?
Well, why don't you have to do with the 800?
Well, there's an 800 up here in the front, right, Tanasia? There's a minus 800 here at the back.
800
So 800 minus 800 is just 0. Okay? So let's complete the square now. Very good. What should I do first with that 4w squared? Factor out the 4. Okay, what's 120 divided by 4?
30.
30. Good. And then, once again, I'm going to leave some bracket here. 700. Figure out what number goes inside. 15 squared. Good. 15 squared is 225. Excellent. I'm going to balance this out by minusing 225.
4 times.
Oh, sorry, right. 4 times 225. What's that? 900. Okay. Okay. Keep going. I will now simplify this to become 4 bracket w plus 15 all squared. And can I move the negative 900 to the other side? So that'll be 900 plus 700 is 1600. Okay, that's good. Nice numbers. Yes, I'm nice to you. Nice numbers. Any questions so far? No? Okay, what's next?
Square root.
No, not square root yet.
Oh, I thought we already did that.
Divide by 4, yes. Good, divide by 4 first, thank you. Which is 400.
Square root.
Square root now. Yes. What's the square root of 400?
Plus minus 20.
Sorry, I forgot this.
Plus or minus 20.
Plus or minus 20. Bravo. Okay, plus or minus 20. Running out of space here, sorry. So what's my last step going to be?
Plus or minus.
Well, before I simplify, let's move that 15.
Plus minus.
So it's minus 15 plus or minus 20. Okay. Now you see there's plus or minus. That means there are 2 possible solutions. So let's actually calculate them. If I have negative 15 plus 20, the answer would be 5. If I did the other one, negative 15 minus 20, that means the width of the walkway is negative 35. What does that mean? I don't know. Negative 35 doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. You can't have a negative length for a distance. So what's width?
5.
5. Good. So therefore, W just equals to 5, and this is meters.
Actually, for the questions we did previous on example 1,
Yep.
why didn't we fully solve it like that?
Because before example number 1, Tanasia, I was trying to review with you what we did before. So that was just like a preview of a skill you learned before. But it's example number 1 where we actually did what we need to learn today for section 4.3. Okay? How are we feeling about this word problem here? Okay?
Just measure in meters.
Okay. Let's do example number 3, and then maybe I'll stop for today. Shall we? Yeah? Okay, some of you are like losing focus. Some of you already lost your focus. Okay. All right. By the way, dear friends, I hope you're seeing that some of these word problems look the same, okay? Because they're all just the same kind of type. And really what I'm doing is just showing you a different skill, okay? Showing you different skills of how to solve these different types of quadratic problems, okay? Example number 3, who plays soccer? What do you guys do? You don't garden, you don't play soccer? Okay, well that's good. Okay, so I don't know when you kick a soccer ball what happens, but when you kick a soccer ball, here's you kicking a soccer ball, usually the soccer ball goes up and then comes down, right? Those of you who don't play soccer well, you kick the ball and it's like boom, 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 and it stops there. That's not good. Okay? So what I'm showing you here is that the path of this soccer ball is given by this quadratic equation, which represents the horizontal distance traveled. So x is the horizontal distance traveled. So think about this being like the x value. And then h is the actual height. Okay? Height. Here's the question. It says, how far does the soccer ball travel before it hits the ground? You've seen this before. When I say hits the ground, what does h equal to when it hits the ground?
0.
0. Excellent. Okay? So all I want you to do is take that equation and make h of x equal to 0. Okay? 1.152x minus 15.2. And ladies and gentlemen, after you've done that, I just want you to solve. Okay? I want you to solve by completing the square. And those of you who are like scared now because you see these ugly decimals, don't be afraid. The steps are the same. Okay? But bring out your calculator because your calculator will help you deal with these ugly decimals. Hello, calculator. Here it is. Okay. By completing the square, once again, what do we do first when we have a number in front of the x squared term?
Factor it out.
Factor it out. Thank you. 0 on the left-hand side. Let's factor out negative 0.016. That leaves us with x squared. And now how do we get that second part? It's the 1.152, and this is where I like you to use your calculator. 1.152, and what should I do with it? Divided by the negative 0.016, and you get, oh, a nice number. Okay, negative 72. Okay, so minus 72x, and remember that constant I like to ignore, and I'll put it outside the bracket, so 15.2. Are you comfortable with a nicer number now? Okay, let's do this together. What number goes inside the bracket? It's half of negative 72, which is negative 36. And I'm going to take negative 36, and I'm going to square it. So this, I need my calculator for. That's 1,296. So once again, let's plus 1,296. And then we need to balance this out. Can you not? Do you want to get it wrong? Oops, wrong one. Hide that, please. Okay, so once again, we need to balance. So 1,296 times 0.016. That gives us, ew, ugly decimal, but nonetheless okay, 20.736. Should I add or subtract 20.736? Add, because we have a minus sign in front of the a value. Good. Okay. Let's simplify. So 0 equals to negative 0.016. That bracket becomes x minus 36 all squared. And then can you combine the decimals together? Yes. Okay. I like those questions. Those are easily answered. Okay. Plus 5.536. Okay. Done? Almost done. You've completed the square. You're right. What's next now to get this done? Now you just need to solve for x. Okay? I'll give you a few seconds to try this first, and then I'll double check my answer with yours. Okay? Go ahead and see if you can do this on your own. Continue on from here. What you should do is you should try to isolate x. My advice to you is let's move this 5.536 to the left side. And if I do that, I get negative 5.536 equals to negative 0.016 x minus 36 all squared. What's my next step going to be? I'm going to take that decimal, that's negative 5.536, divide that by negative 0.016, and then make it equal to, oh look, it's nice, it's 346. By the way, this should be a positive number because your next step you're going to do is you're going to try to take the square root, and you can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay? So, once again, it's plus or minus root 346 equals to x minus 36. And once again, I'm not looking for a decimal answer. I'm looking for an exact value. So leave it as a square root. And I'll say it's 36 plus or minus root 346. Okay? And you're kind of done, but let me just kind of show you which one of these is the right answer, because there's two of them, right? So, on your calculator now, I'm actually going to show you what square root of 346 is. The square root of 346 is 18 point something. Okay?
Or negative.
Or negative. So if I were to actually punch this out in the calculator, you get 36 plus root 346 or 36 minus root 346. Now, as a decimal, just to let you know, it's 18.6. So 36 minus that decimal is about 17 meters. And the other one, if I do 36 plus that, oh no, I don't want to hear that, it's 54. Okay? So you actually have two answers. Okay, 54 point something. So really, there's actually two different solutions. You can actually have a really big, strong kick that gives you 54, or you can do a little lesser kick that gives you only 17.39. Okay? Both actually work, so both are okay.
Essentially, the
Yeah.
answer, what's it called? Can we just leave it as 36?
Yeah, leave it like that. I just wanted to show you. Okay? Here's your homework. It looks like a lot, but it's not. Please work on that. You've got lots of time this weekend. Those of you celebrating Chinese New Year, Happy New Year to you.
Oh, you didn't wish me?